Ladies and gentlemen,
We're back.
episode 23, Jordan
Episode 23.
Jordan episode. It's
Jordan episode.
fitting that it's Jordan episode because I've been telling you about this episode since we started.
This has been our most requested guest.
This has been the most
come on.
This is literally the most
anticipated.
requested guest we've
Stop.
had.
I've told Quinn this whole time this episode is going to be the one,
Yes.
and I have no doubts that it'll deliver.
No pressure.
Are we
No
introducing
pressure.
our guest? Do you
With-
have the illustrious introduction like I had?
I don't have an. I had one in my head, but I'm just gonna freeball it. 'Cause
Free ball it,
I feel like
please.
that's what he would want. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, soon to be black belt. We think. We assume.
It's coming. Around the corner.
The man that builds chimneys. He repairs chimneys. If you need chimney, call this man.
It's a private company?
I work for my homie. It's his company. He's
Okay.
got a business partner, and I work for them. It's just the three of us.
Right.
And our office girl, Sharon. Shout out to Sharon. She's awesome. But it's just the four of us, and we do everything.
We need a Sharon.
We need a
We need
Sharon.
a Sharon behind the scenes.
We do.
We do.
Everybody needs a Sharon.
Makes the world go round. Avid reader, soon to be author.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay.
The one,
Hopefully.
the only, R. Joseph Johnston.
There he is.
That name, I almost botched it because I just found out today that name is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, just a brief description of your name, please.
My first name is the letter R. And
Really?
Yeah, no one ever believes me. They're always like, well, but what does it stand for? It's like, it actually doesn't stand for anything. It's kind of, I could give you the shortened version of it.
Please.
Is my father was a redneck.
Okay.
And his father was a redneck. And every time my grandfather got married and had a son by
Yeah.
a new woman, he would name them after himself, Richard. Right, so my father was like, "All right, he's Richard, and we're gonna call him RJ." And my mom was like, "I hate Richard. I don't want my son to be named Richard."
Huh.
So it kind of would have been Richard, but they couldn't agree on anything else for the R to stand for.
Okay.
So it just was R. And then my mom's grandfather was named Joseph, so I got R. Joseph. That's who
Sounds
we
good.
are.
It sounds very Civil War-ish.
It's very. So there was a Johnston in the Civil War, actually, and he kind of looks like me. It's really weird. Johnston blood is very thick, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. Yeah, I have a half sister.
Okay.
She's only half a sister, right? We look. If I put on a wig, you'd be like, "That's Arjun."
That's R.
Yeah, it's really weird.
That is
It's really
interesting.
weird, but.
Now, when you say redneck, are you saying redneck from like New Jersey redneck?
No,
or like,
no. My
you're
whole
going down
Johnstons
south?
are all from Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
My-
about as redneck as you
And, you
get.
have-
Yeah.
and I'm sure you visited Alabama at some point.
Yeah, yep. I've been there a few times to meet my half sister and my nieces and nephews, which is crazy. Niece and nephews.
Right.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I mean, it kind of flows right into the first idea here. Speaking of visiting Alabama, how many places have you been on this planet? How many countries?
Countries, I think I'm at 11 or 12,
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
I'm
which
always
is not a lot, man.
In reality, it's not, but it's a lot for people who don't travel.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like when I meet people who barely left New Jersey, they're like, "Holy shit, am I allowed to curse?"
Yes. You can say whatever
They're
you
like,
want.
"Oh my goodness, like 11 countries," and it's like, yeah. But then you talk to some people, like I got a homie who's been to like 70 countries. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And I'm
that's
like,
wild.
I look up to that. It's like,
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen anything. But it's
Yeah.
like one of those typical, like more you know, the more you know you don't know.
Right,
Yeah.
It's
right.
like the more you see, the more you realize you haven't seen anything. It's like,
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen a very small percentage of the world, but I'm very grateful for what I have seen, you know, for sure. 48 states.
48
Okay.
states.
Yeah, Alaska and Hawaii are the ones that I've missed.
Have
so
alleviated
far.
you.
Yeah, which I will get to, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
But you know,
Now, your preparation for going to these places, are you just a traveler to go see things in general, and just like, are you an individual traveler?
a lot of the stuff I've done has been with my brother.
Okay.
I guess it kind of started with him. We had a conversation. This will all be in my book.
Yeah.
We had a conversation one night, and we just, you know, we've always been kind of anti-establishment.
Okay.
Just, you know, we saw the bullshit from a very young age, and it's like it just felt like, you know, when you're 18, 19, it just feels like it's like, am I trapped in this system? Like, do I have to do this? we had a conversation. We were like, man, we should just like get a van and just dip out, just go wherever the wind blows us. And our first trip, I think it was about 4 months, and we just like stayed on the road, and we just kept going until we felt like it was time to come home. You know, we really had no destination.
And now at this time, your first trip, what age are you?
Probably 20.
Okay.
21 maybe.
People are going to hear that and they're going to be like, how did you fund all that? And then you talked about it a little bit and we talked about it a little bit. How do you manage your money doing that?
Well, I'll tell you what, we didn't really have much. It's not like we, you know, I have had trips where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this in a couple months and I'm going to save every penny until I go and just make it work. That trip in particular, we really didn't have much. Like, and we we bought the van that we went in a couple weeks before we left.
Yeah.
So like that was a huge chunk of what we had
to get it ready to go on a
just to get it ready. I mean, we bought this old Astro van that was like beat. Like, it really was. Like, it wasn't even in good shape. We were like, I guess this is it. Like $700 out of our. We probably had a couple grand. I don't remember exactly, but we didn't have a lot. And when every time you stop for gas, you're like, damn, it's going quick. You know what I mean?
And how old are you right now?
34.
Okay, so you're looking at 14 years ago. Now that's about what, 2008, 2009, just about
around that, yeah, something like that.
But so it's interesting, like when you talk about that time of how far your dollar went.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like think about like presidents at the time, how gas, inflation, those types of things kind of play a role into you being able to even travel that far.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but again, we were very minimalist. Like we tried to not spend unnecessary money. You know what I mean? Like we, I'll admit it. Like we ate out of dumpsters some days. Like nothing gross, nothing that ever made us sick. But it's like if we found a pizza box with half a pizza in it, we're like, this thing's still warm. We should eat this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like
we made it work. And, especially once the money was gone. And now I'm thinking of that trip in particular. Once we had run through our money, we had to find ways to like just figure it out almost daily.
Right.
And, this brings me to a thought where it's like a lot of people are inspired when you are doing something that like everybody says they wish they could do that. And it's like when they meet somebody who's actually doing it, they're like, oh my goodness, I want to help. Like people want to help you succeed in doing interesting and unbelievable things. We had a lot of help along the way from strangers.
Yeah, and it's interesting too when you talk about it in that way of like the inspiration. I think one part that people don't really realize is that like even when you're in those moments, they don't realize how overrated some of those moments are. Like, when you're struggling and you don't have it and you're going on these trips and people think it's just some illustrious vacation that you're going on.
Right.
It's like you're still trying to find a little bit about you in that time where it's hard. There was probably times where it's been difficult.
Oh, extremely difficult. And it's not like I did my best when I told these stories to like not over exaggerate the greatness of it. It's like, dude, we slept under bridges. Like we were cold, we were hungry. Like there's times where it was a struggle for sure. I mean, I'm not, I'm happy I did it. It's not like I don't regret a thing about any of those trips at all.
And what made you so anti-establishment? Like what was one of the first things that you saw that made you feel like it was time to start kind of, not necessarily, I guess, revolting in a way?
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, all right, well, first of all, not to get too heavy, right? But
please, the heavier the better.
Yeah. My father left me and my mother when I was extremely young, right? So life was a struggle more so for my mom. Like I didn't even really carry that burden. But I saw her working really hard to like give me a good life. And she wanted the best for me, she always did. She's an angel, my mother. She put me into a private school. And that was part of it, like, because even as a young person, I would see the way that, religious influences and, because it was a Catholic school, right? So I would see the way that they would be like, well, this is the way it is. And you're a part of that. And I would always be like, well, maybe I feel different. You know, like the first chance I got at an elective class, I took a world religions class because I kind of just wanted to be like you and stick it to them, right?
Yeah, right.
I grew up listening to, I was always a street kid. Like I was always just out at night, skateboarding, drinking 40s, way too young. And, got into like the punk rock scene and, listening to those types of lyrics when you're a little kid,
Yeah.
impressionable mind. It's like, I just felt like I could never trust the powers at play, right? And then it was like, again, 9/11 happened. And there was a lot of controversy around that. And at that time, I was just very like anti anything I was told. I wanted to like, even if it was true, I wanted to go find out for myself. Like, it was like, I have to go, I just want to go see the world and figure out myself. I want to know who I am because I said so, not because somebody
on your
else.
terms.
Not because somebody told me it was this way. Because if I listened to everybody, man, it's like, I never would have done half the stuff I did. Even 1% of the stuff I did because everybody would have told me that it was dangerous, I was going to get hurt, and the world is scary and dangerous, which it can be for a lot of people, but I think there's a lot more good out there than bad, honestly.
I think that's, well, maybe not at that time, but the media kind of just portrays all you see is the bad. So when you're going on those trips, you anticipate all of that bad to happen to you. And then, like you said, you see people want better for you. People want to see you do well, and they'll help you out if they have the chance.
I'm telling you, so many people helped us when we, especially like that first trip that me and my brother took. It was unbelievable the support that we got from strangers. You know what I mean? And again, it was hard, but we did it, man, and it was really cool. There's really something else.
And you think when you go on those types of trips too, because it's interesting. I'm a pretty spiritual guy when it comes to Christianity and just what I believe in as far as like angels and people who are around you in certain areas of your life. Like you will run into those moments with people that you don't necessarily know how they're going to respond to you, even on your own journey, and like they play a major role. And like,
absolutely,
is spirituality come into play when you have been on that journey?
Big time. Yeah. Yes, 100%. And I think we're all on spiritual journeys, physical journeys, spiritual, same thing, right? It's like our body's going through this life, and we're guided by our own spirit, but also like all the spirits around us, the spirit, if you want, it's like I believe there's one spirit that's around us all the times, making sure that we end up where we're supposed to be. And yeah, man, there were times, even if I wasn't a spiritual person, there's times that you're put into situations with people and you're like, there's no way that this wasn't like supposed to happen. It was just too perfect. Like, there's one, I don't want to jump ahead, right? But I guess I'll explain a little bit. We started off in that Astrovone, right? And we hit like 18 or somewhat. We wanted to see all the states that we could drive to. That was like our mission when we left with the van. After like 18 or so states, the van blew up, right? So now we're like on the side of the road, like, what do we do now?
Yeah, right.
And we hitchhiked for a little bit, and then we ended up in Tacoma, staying with a friend, Tacoma, Washington, which is just south of what's the big city up there? Washington. What's the big
What was your driving limit? Like, as far as like, what do you think? What was your distance as far as like places you could drive to? Because like for me, like places I could drive to is like Florida and back. Like,
I mean, we hit some long trips. I mean, I don't know even the longest one. I mean, one time I drove. This was a different trip, but I drove from the Grand Canyon to New Jersey in one shot. That was brutal. That's
like
bad.
40, it's got to be 35 hours.
It was rough.
Yeah.
That was bad. I mean, another long one. We went from somewhere. It was right on the border of, I think, Iowa and Nebraska. So it was like the eastern side of Nebraska, and we went all the way halfway through Colorado. That was another really long trip. But so we got to Tacoma, which is right south of Seattle. That was the city, right? Just south of Seattle. And we stayed with a friend. She had like a nice place, and she was like, "Stay as long as you want." And she took good care of us. And we found a jiu-jitsu gym out there. So like we had a little family out there.
Yeah.
And we had just mentioned about looking to get bicycles. Because we were like, if we're going to like move around, we need bicycles. Chick in the jiu-jitsu gym was like, oh, you got to go check out Second Cycle. We're like, what's that? It's like this bike shop. It's like a community bike shop where nothing costs money. You just go there. They teach you how to work on your own bike. They have all the tools, all the parts. Most of the stuff they get is donations. So like, you know, they stay open. However, they stay open, but nothing really costs money. A bunch of street punks. They're all like vegans with mohawks. And they looked at us and they were like, they walked in, we're like, we're looking to get bicycles. We don't have any money, but is there anything we can do? And this dude like looked us both up and down. He goes, I think this bike will fit you. And then he starts like, he got all into it right away. Yeah. He's like, you guys work here a couple days a week for a week, a couple hours a day, and we'll like build you bikes. You're like, hell yeah. So then we took the bikes and we rode them all the way down the coast, right? It was like 2,000 miles. And on this bike journey, right, there was one day, I have to have a name for this day. It was just like, it was such a roller coaster of emotions this day because we woke up wet, like it foggy and shit out there, right? So like we literally woke up like wet, got the worst sleep ever. And it was like, damn, dude, we gotta like ride bikes right now. Like this was only like 4 or 5 days into our trip and we were like, what the fuck are we doing? Like this sucks. And we're riding through these like weird logging towns where there's just like huge portions of forest that are just like cut down and everybody lives in these little shacks and trailers. And it's just kind of like a depressing start to our day. And we were like, man, this is tough. We just kept pedaling, we just kept riding. We get to this one town and there's just nothing. There's just nothing in this town. Like we were like, where can we find some food? And they're like, well, there's like one bar that's open. And we're like, we don't have any money. So like, that's not really going to work for us. We run into these two girls and a dog. And they had these big packs. Like you could tell they were on the road too. So we were like, what are y'all doing? They're like, oh, we're probably going to find some bush to sleep under. We're like, cool, us too. 2 dudes, 2 girls. We were like, this is cool. Let's hang out. You know? So they're like, we're trying to get to this place in California, to this farm. They wanted to trim some weeds. So that was their goal. We were just looking for somewhere to stop for the day. And as we're standing there, this little like Volkswagen car like pulls up. This dude gets out, and I can't like exaggerate this. The dude had like this long curly blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, and he had this like, you know those shirts that are like real thin? He looks like an island guy. He just like had this like real thin white shirt. He looked like an angel. Like he actually looked like light was coming out of him. And we're like, oh man, what's this guy? And he's like, anybody going to this place? And the girls were like, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
And at first we're like, damn, that's kind of cool. Like he's literally going to where they were trying to get. Then they're like, well, I guess if he's going to give us a ride, we don't need this chicken. And then they just like had a chicken. They were vegan, so they didn't eat the chicken. They were going to give it to the dog. But since they were going to get their ride, they're like, you guys can have this chicken. So now we're like, hell yeah, dude, we got some food. Curly hair. Busts out $40 and just gives it to us. And we're like, dude, we got money, we got chicken. They got the ride. And then I was like, we're all 5 of us are just standing there. We're like, man, this couldn't be more perfect. And he's like, is there anything else you guys want? And like as a joke, I was like, you guys got any weed? And then the girls were like, we got weed. And they handed us like an 1/8 of nugget. And we were like, what the hell's going on here, man? Like the 2 girls and me and my brother, we showed up. We had nothing. Nothing. They had a chicken that they didn't even eat, right? Like none of us had shit. They got the ride to where they were going. We got dinner. We got money. And then it was just like you
won that day.
Like the day that just started so awful, just like ended up being perfect. And it just so happened this dude like drove by and stopped his car. Like, you know, moments like that are where you're like, someone's looking out. You know what I mean? Like just, and it's always just when you think like you're beat. Like it can suck and you get through it, but once you're like, man, this is just a beat day and I'm throwing it out.
You're approaching that rock bottom feeling.
All of a sudden, it was just like we had everything.
Everything's getting dim, and then that one beam of light just strikes down.
And the day got perfect. it ends up getting not perfect again too.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes.
Funny, right? On the end of every rainstorm, there's a rainbow, and then at the end of that rainbow, there's another rainstorm. Like it's just the way it goes. But we were grateful, man. We have full bellies. You know?
That story, when you told it, I still vividly remember you telling that story the first time. It's still one of the craziest stories I think I've ever heard.
It's just funny. I mean, I'm forgetting a lot of details, but like, you know, it just goes to show like those days where you really do. You're like down and out, and you're like, actually, man, it's like I'm provided for. We have abundance all around us.
It's interesting too when you were. I was actually thinking about it as you were talking about the women and saying like, okay, like here's 2 guys, here's 2 girls. Like, have you since your life has been so travel dominant and like trying to go see the world, has commitment ever been like an issue?
The biggest.
Yeah.
The hardest thing I've ever had to deal with was commitment. I mean, I can't tell you how many relationships I've probably ruined because I couldn't get roots. I couldn't stop doing what I was doing. Like it actually it's kind of an issue with me because now that I've done so many trips, it's like slowing down feels like it just feels like a pressure that I'm not used to.
Yeah.
And there's so many people, women, jobs, like things that probably could have been good for me that I fucked up because I was just like, I'm not ready to like slow down right now. I can't stop.
Right.
You know what I mean? How many people have been like, what do you think? I'm just going to like wait for you? And it's like, if you want.
I think that's a part of especially the mentalities of where we live too. Like we talked to a couple people in Miami, specifically this girl who's from Serbia, and she lives in Milan right now, and she kind of told us a lot about some really interesting ideologies and philosophies on how just the American people live, but specifically even on the East Coast, and like how we look at the world as far as like we work to live, you know. And some people live to work. And I think that we adopt a lot of that live to work type of thing and that fast pace. And it's not necessarily you're working, but like you're working in a different form. You're working to do something for yourself internally. And do people understand that with you? Has any woman ever tried to come on a trip with you to be like, I want to kind of see where you're at?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Like it's been discussed where it's like I want to do that, and then it's like okay, like pack your bag, like let's go. And then when it comes time to go, nah.
Right.
I had a girlfriend. I was maybe 24 or 25, where we did like a mini trip. It probably took like 3 weeks. We started off. We went to this music festival in Ohio.
Okay.
And she had a job opportunity that was going to be in like 3 or 4 weeks, and her mom told me, I was like, we're going to like drive across the country. She's like, where are you going to go? I'm like, I don't know yet. Like, just going to go. She's like, she has to be back by this day. And I was like, I promise you, no matter what, I'll get her back by this day.
Yeah.
And so we hit that festival up. A couple of my traveling buddies that I've done stuff with multiple times in the past, they were also there, and they had freed up schedules. So we had 2 cars, me and the girl I was with, and then my 2 homies, and we were like, let's just go and hit a bunch of national parks and like just see how far we can get before we got to come back. And she did that. She was a trooper. You know what I mean? That relationship didn't work out, but like,
it's interesting though.
That was probably the only time I would say that somebody was actually like, I'll go with you, and then like just did whatever. Not whatever I said, but like, how do I put it? She was just open to like whatever happens.
There for the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of people want plans.
Yeah.
They're like, well, where are we going to stay? And it's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of uncertainty makes a lot of people unsettled. So that definitely, like, you have to be of a certain caliber of openness to even attempt to do something like that.
Right.
And it's few and far between, for sure.
Right.
It's interesting. So fast forward a little bit to today. Obviously, you just talked about kind of you were travel heavy. Now you're a little settled down. I've been around you for a few years now, and you've been pretty mild on your travels.
Yeah. Mostly
because of you're approaching your black belt and you're kind of being consistent. Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
as you come up on this black belt, you're currently 4 stripes on your brown belt. There's no other step except for a black belt now at this point.
That's excellent.
You're in the game 14 years. What's the mindset as you approach this pretty much colossal moment in your life?
Yeah, I mean, so ever since I found jiu-jitsu, just martial arts in general, like, it's been the only constant that I've had. Even throughout traveling, it was one of those things where my brother hasn't trained in a while, but he also did jiu-jitsu, and anytime we would leave for a trip, I would bring some gear, like just in case. Like I would actively look for places to train, even while I was on the road. Like I was able to train in a bunch of different states, actually other countries as well, and so it's always been a constant in my life where it kind of grounded me in at least that hour or so, and just brought me back to like that sense of something rooted, something solid that wasn't just like, I don't know what's next. It's like, well, at least for an hour, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And it's always been there since I started. And like you said, like now I'm so close. So I kind of I didn't want to be one of those people. I've seen a lot of these guys over the years in jiu-jitsu and martial arts where, life gets in the way and then you stop training and, everybody's on their own path. But I didn't want to be one of those people that got really, really close and then just fell off.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like
there's people that were brown belts when I was a white belt. We're still brown belts to this day because life happened, which like, I'm not, it's all good. That's just what it is. But I didn't want to do that. And I knew I was close. And Pando, shout out to our coach. He's the man, and he's been a huge part of my journey. When he was like, "Look, I'm opening up a gym. I want you to be a part of it." That was when I kind of knew like I should slow down for a little bit and just reach this, because it's black belt has been one of my goals.
Yeah.
Basically my entire life, but especially since I started training jiu-jitsu. Like I always wanted to be a black belt. I didn't know in what. Yeah. Like I just like Bruce Lee and
you started in Taekwondo, right?
Jean-Claude Van Damme. I started in Taekwondo. It's like growing up with those kind of role models, because again, I didn't have my dad around, so my dad became Bloodsport and kickboxer and Rocky. You know what I mean? Those were like my role models, because guys that could whoop ass. Like I thought that was cool, and I was just so close. I knew I had to just gear up and settle down for a little bit if I was ever going to actually achieve that honor.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think what's interesting about commitment is like committing to that cause and being loyal to your own goals in that way is like, it's hard in relationships, right? Because like we've talked about this in many times. Like I've had tumultuous relationships in my own life with other women, and I think the difference is that they ask you why you can't be loyal to that, but you're loyal to everything else you do. And like, think about how far you've committed to becoming a black belt. And like, do you ever kind of psychoanalyze that part of you? Like,
for sure I do. Yeah. And it's funny because jiu-jitsu does ask a lot.
Yeah, it's a full-blown commitment, man.
There are sacrifices that have to be made if you ever want to succeed, or succeed's not even the right word, but like just move forward. You know what I mean? It's like it's going to take a lot of commitment and sacrifice. And but the thing is, that relationship has given me so much.
Yes, so it's been dual.
It's a give and take, and like I find the more that you give, the more you get from it, And I'm not saying that it's not the same for jobs or women. Like it's generally like that for everything.
Right.
But I just felt so good when I trained, and I liked who it made me. Like it's I really feel like, especially as like a young man when I started, it's like you don't even know what you're made of until there's someone else like willing to show you where you break. You know what I mean? And I just feel, traveling helped with that too. It's like, what can I really take on and get through, and jiu-jitsu's made me better in so many ways. Like, hygiene. It's like such a simple like even that though, like I was like a poor street kid who liked punk rock music. It's like if I smelled like shit, I didn't even care.
Yeah.
But now it's like if I get ringworm and give it to all my friends, that's not cool.
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta shower, dog. Like you gotta be clean. Like if you want to wake up tomorrow and not feel like shit, you can't be out drinking every night. You gotta be getting enough sleep. You gotta be eating right, taking care of your body.
For sure.
Like all these things. You know, as you evolve and become like a better person, like these are things that you should know.
Yeah.
But it took jujitsu to like show me that.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to be like who you see yourself as, it's like you got to like get with the program, man.
Right.
And it's like it just made me better, you know, made me realize what I can handle, you know what I mean? And you find out, I think that this is true for all people. It's like when you're faced with that, you find out you can handle a lot. Like we're very, very strong people. People are very adaptable, and it might surprise everyone to see what they're made of.
The mental advancements you make in jiu-jitsu is almost second to none.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, I just don't think, like when you play baseball and you play basketball, you know, it's fun. You know, you do your thing, you have fun, you try and be competitive, but it's nothing like somebody trying to ultimately kill you to find out what you're made of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's I mean, all sports are great and can give you a lot of things, but those are all team sports. Mm-hmm. With jiu-jitsu, especially if you're competing or something, it's like there's really you got your coach and your teammates for support, but there's really nobody else in there but you. Right. There's no one else to blame. If your cardio is ass, it's because you didn't wake up and run. Right. If your technique is ass, it's because you didn't pay attention and do all your studying. It's like it's only on you. And I think that's another reason I loved it so much, is because there's no excuses. Mm-hmm. There's no excuses on the mats. And it's a gift, man.
It really is.
It's an ancient gift. This shit's been around longer than we know. And it's, you know, you watch like bears and cats and shit. It's like they do jujitsu or wrestle. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. If you break it down far enough, it's like, you know, this stuff's ancient.
If you want to talk history of grappling, we can call up our friend Joel Bain. Shout out to Mr. Joel Bain.
Shout out to Bain.
He's one of the most knowledgeable people on the history of grappling I think I've ever met.
Yeah, we need more. We need a full Stray Dogs MMA podcast.
I'm trying to get the boys on there.
As many mics as we can get.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
As many cameras as we can get.
How much time you got?
It'll be a day, but we'll do it on the we'll do it on the mats.
Yeah, we block out a day for that. But I mean, another topic we can kind of fast forward here. You're writing a book. You finished your first draft. You're on to your second draft.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what has it been like writing a book?
Harder than I thought.
Yeah.
It's kind of a daunting process. I read something, I don't know who said it, don't quote me, but it was like, basically what it was like 100 things that every great man does.
Okay.
And one of them was journal, right? Mm-hmm. It's like writing down your experiences, not only for like your self-expression, just to like get it out of your brain and put it down on something physical, but it's just one of these things where like if there was a great man in history, like there had to be something written down for anyone to know they were a great man. Otherwise they just died and their story vanished.
That's well said. I didn't even think about it that way.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That
has
just
to
kind
be
of blew
written
my
down
mind.
somewhere. So I remember thinking in my head, I was like, the book is mainly about that first trip that me and my brother took. And it was just, I was like, man, the story's too good to just die with me.
Right.
You know, and hopefully people read it and get inspiration, or, you know, or maybe they just think it's interesting. Like, I don't know. I just felt like a calling to put it down somewhere. The whole thing from my point of view. I'm actually really hoping to convince my brother to write the exact same story through his eyes.
Yes.
Because I thought that would be kind of a cool, like, I don't know. I
That
just,
would be a great
I just thought that
parallel.
would be kind of cool.
That'd be a great parallel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like, yo, here's the same story, but from the other side of it, because it was just me and him.
Because he has details that you might not
Oh my
write
goodness,
down.
dude! When I started writing it, I would talk to him and I'd be like, "What? Like, where were we? What happened when that happened?" He'd be like, "Oh, this," and I'd be like, "Dude, I don't even think about that. Like, I totally forgot about that." So I'm sure it would be completely separate books. Like, they would be so different. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt the calling to like put that story on paper, and I thought it would be easier. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
It took me, I think since I started, it took me like 4 years to get to this part where I just finished my first draft. I don't even have paragraphs. I don't even have punctuation. I just have like stream of consciousness. Like then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. I tried to make all my points and then expand on each point. And I feel like I'm still just starting it because there's just so much to get into. And I want to like add, how I felt. It's like right now it's just a skeleton of the story, and I want to go add the meat and the muscles and everything. It's a crazy process. I remember talking to shout out to Valerie Worthington, a black belt that I've known on my journey, and I've taken a lot of insight from her, and she wrote a book. And I remember when I told her, I was like, "Val, I'm going to write a book." She was like, "You're crazy."
Yeah.
I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "This shit sucks. Like, it's so hard."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay."
Goes back to listening to people, and if you listen to everybody, you would have never done anything.
Yeah, exactly, man. It is. It's one of those things where she's like, "You're nuts." I mean, she supported the idea, but it's just, I guess she knows because she did it. She's like, "This is tough, man. It's not going to be easy." And, hopefully once it's finished, I get published. I want to make it interesting. I want to make it a book that is different than books that have been. You know what I mean? Like, just something extra. Like, I want some idea. I don't want to give too much of my shit away.
Don't spoil.
I want to have, before every chapter, I want to have a map that shows, like, where I go in this chapter.
So you need an illustrator,
Right? So it's like, it just makes it more interactive. So people can be like, "Oh, what's this chapter?" And it's like, oh, they see this little map. It's like, well, I guess he gets this far. Let's go see how he does it. I'd love to have, now this is an idea, keep it on the down low. No, I'm just kidding.
World premiere.
Blasted, blasted. I'd love to have like a chapter where it's, what's the word? Not like comic books, like the weird way to say it, but what's it called?
What's the word for it? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like a graphic novel.
Yeah.
So I want to have like certain chapters that are like graphic novels. Like, I just want it to be different, I don't even remember the book, but there's this one book where like some of the pages were written this way, some of them were this way, some of them are backwards. It just makes it like fun. It
stimulates your brain a little bit,
So it's not just like, okay. Like, I want it to be like a book where when you're in it, you're like, oh my God, it's just pictures and details and like, poems that explain how I felt during this portion of the book. Like, I just want to pour everything into it. And
it's kind of genre-less, because I think, obviously it's it'll be a fiction novel, but like in its way.
Nonfiction.
Nonfiction, I'm sorry. Nonfiction novel.
Yeah.
But like people will look at it as like, I could feel different things from this, from seeing graphics, from seeing the black and white images, from seeing a map here.
Right.
Like, can take you through the journey in a way that's...
Pictures and everything. Like, I want it to be a fun book to read, I, just as a joke in my head, I'm like, it's, On the Road, Jack Kerouac. Classic traveler book. Kerouac was like, he was part of the Beat generation, and he wrote this book called On the Road, and it's basically the similar story. Like, he just went on the road and talked about what happened. It's like, this is On the Road, like, on acid.
In a different form. Yeah. Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
I think it'll be
What's the first book you ever read?
That's the first book?
What's the first book you've ever read?
Oh.
We were just talking about it while we were waiting for you about reading and all that.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, outside of like school books, because obviously
they're like one you decided, like, I think I need to read this book because it's gonna.
The first one that keeps popping in my head, and it must have been at least one of the first books, was called A Long Way Gone.
Okay.
It was written by, his name was Ishmael Beh, I think. It was just this African kid who basically got snatched up by like whatever you call them, like the the guys who revolt against the government.
The militia.
It's like what I think he was in Sierra Leone, and it's like these dudes with guns and trucks come into his town, like murder hella people, and then
like a Blood Diamond scenario.
Yes,
yeah, good movie
like,
too.
Dude, super intense book, man. Like you're reading this, and the stuff he's saying, you're like, man, this kid was a child when this happened to him, and very, very intense, and that got me thinking about like how I got it pretty good. You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, this kind of stuff really happens to people, and the moral of the story at the end of his book, he's like a normal guy, lives in New York, and like, you know, like they made him murder people and like do drugs against his will, and you know, the stuff he saw would damage any human being, you know what I mean? So for him to get out of that and to kind of have a normal life made me feel better, because I saw some crazy shit when I was a kid, you know, from my father and whatever else. So it's like that was definitely made me comforted me a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's interesting too you say that, because like the trauma you might have seen as a kid, like I was thinking about it, and I think we all have a mechanism in some way to cope with those things, whether we know it or not, and it might be subconscious in that way.
Of course.
Do you think did leaving and being able to go and do what you wanted, I guess, leaving whatever situation you might have been in, do you think that played a role in your traveling? And like, did that kind of the coping mechanism was to go travel and do something?
For sure, yeah. I mean, because, you know, for a long commitment issue could also be seen as abandonment issue. Yeah. Right? So when your father leaves you as a young boy, it's like, there was that thing in Fight Club. You saw Fight Club?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if our own fathers abandon us, what does that say about God? Like, does God abandon you? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's this thing where it's like, well, I'm on my own. And, you know, the only person that can save me is me. And like, I got to go, I don't even know who I am.
Right.
It's like, I've been told this, and, you know, you grow up this way and have all this stuff forced on you as a kid. And it's like, I just wanted to go see for myself, you know what I mean? It's like, even if I made mistakes along the way, which I certainly did, I'm human, right? It's like, I made a lot of mistakes, but I was always that type where it's like, you could tell me the right way, but I'm going to go figure it out on my own anyway. Even if it costs me doing it the wrong way, the hard way, you know, like I always took the long road, and I feel like I'm better for it now, you know what I mean? And traveling just gave me a sense of freedom, and I think that's kind of obvious, but when you really break that down, it's like there's no one to tell you where to stop. There's no one to tell you which way to go. You know what I mean? It's like it's 100% entirely on you and your own decisions. And there's something about that makes like freedom. It's like a freedom I can't explain, because it's the only place I've ever felt it. It's just when you're on the road and there's no right way or wrong way. It's like, just go figure it out, man. And you find it.
That would freak. I feel like that would freak a lot of people out. I think a lot of people are very structured in their life, and
they need to be told what to do.
Yeah.
You know, I always resented being told what to do. And this is the thing though. I feel like when people get put into those positions, it actually, like, you kind of realize there is nothing, like, how do I put it? You, when you're faced with those decisions, which way do I go, right? You realize, like, it's just the same as if I was at home. Like, I'm still me. Like, nothing really changes during that process. You're still just you. You could be at your home watching TV, playing video games, or you can be, do I go up this mountain or down to that river? Like, you're still you, and you still get to, you still feel the same way in the moment. It's nothing really changes. It doesn't change you until after you've done it, and you have to reflect on it. Like, that's when the serious stuff happens, and that's something where I think traveling offers you it's like a fast forwarded way to see who you are, because you know, you'll go through experiences in life, slow or fast, right? If I stayed in my hometown and got a job and got a girlfriend and a wife and kids and just bought a house, like, I would still go through the same experiences. We all as humans experience the same type of stuff, but I was able to experience like so much of it in such a short period of time. It might have taken some people years to get that amount of experience.
Right.
Where I got in a couple weeks just being on the road.
Yeah.
But then you're like overloaded, and you have to like back yourself out and like process and what's the word? There's another word for that where you like integrate everything you've learned, and it's like or seen, and that almost became the challenge.
Yeah.
When do I integrate this? Because it's just when you're go for months at a time. It's like I don't know. I don't remember where I was yesterday.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter because I'm so in the moment, which is a good thing. I think we should all live present.
Yeah.
Right.
But when you're just present, you don't get to look back on it or think about your future when you're just locked in the present for so long. I think that's an experience that I think more people should have.
Right.
You know, and where you really just get to look at where you are and how you got there. You know, that's part of the magic that I think gets overlooked.
Taking like a third person point of view on your own life.
Just sitting back and reviewing everything that happened. You know, it's like we're blessed with these minds that are so incredible, but a lot of times we're thinking about, well, what's this going to be like in the future? How am I going to get to where I want to be? We don't really we look backwards in a negative way. Like, oh, if I had never done this, or because that happened, it got me here. You know, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I think the integration aspect is more so like, wow, I made these decisions that led me to here, and even when I thought it was bad, it ended up being good, or when I thought it was good, it ended up not being so good, and just learning about how you interact with the world and with your own consciousness. It's like, you know, there were times where I would just be in a car or on a bus, just looking out the window, not saying shit for hours. And those were the times that I was actually able to like decompress a little bit. Yeah. When you're going, it's like, it's great, but it can be a lot, you know? Yeah. I don't think everybody's cut out to do some of the stuff I did. And, you know, not that they can't, it's just, you know, I was kind of like thirsty for that type of adventure. And some people, I think it would scare the shit out of them, to be honest.
Well, just even on that kind of topic, what are a couple things that you would tell someone who wants to start traveling in that way? What are a couple things that you would tell them are like imminent?
Yeah, just literally go. Like, just don't make a plan. Like, because plans either are gonna fall apart, and then you're gonna be like, shit, now what do I do? Like, if you have a plan, it can be messed up.
Plans go awry.
Like if you just go and not expect anything, I think that's the most open way to receive it. Like, you know, don't bring too much. That's a big one. When we had our van, I brought everything. I brought stuff that I was like, well, maybe we'll need this. You know what I mean? Like I brought tools and books and so many clothes and just like all this stuff. And when the van blew up, we were like, well, I can't carry all this shit. I had to get rid of it. Like I literally gave it to the tow truck driver. I was like, just, you want this shit? Like, otherwise I'm just going to leave it in here. It's going to go to the scrapyard. Like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I can't do anything with it. And even that type of experience is very hard for some people. Like, these are like my things. This was like my stuff. This was like stuff that I thought like, you know, made me who I was, just like these material things. And then being forced into a situation where I had to walk away from all my stuff, it's like that, you know, it hurts at the moment. You're like, man, this is my shit. I like paid for it.
Right.
You know? And then you have to be done with it. And it was very liberating, actually, in the long run. But like at the time, it was really hard. And like, I don't think some people could do that. I think some people would have FedExed all their shit home, bought a plane ticket, and just got home with their stuff safe and sound, and just like given up on it. I remember having a conversation with my mom when I had to tell her, right, like the van blew up. She's gonna start asking questions if she don't see no van in the picture anymore. So I called her and I was just like, you know, I was like, the van blew up. She's like, oh my God, you know, mom's. She's like, oh, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, I don't know yet. Like, I gotta figure it out, but like, I don't want you to worry. She's like, well, you coming home? I'm like, no. What do you mean? I like in my head that wasn't even an option. I was like, what do you mean coming home? I was like, we didn't do nearly what we had set out to do. And I made a joke to her. I was like, now we're kind of rich because we don't got to pay for gas anymore. This is great. Right. It's a blessing in disguise, you know? Yeah. It was, but to go back to what you said, like some people feel their whole sense of identity is like in their stuff. Yeah. So the first thing is like, don't bring a lot of stuff. Like don't try to take the life that you have and go experience it somewhere else. Just go experience a different way to live. Mm-hmm. And I think most people will be better off for that. You know, I can't stand when people, again, it's their journey. It's not mine. So who am I? But I think when people are like, oh, I'm going to go to this place and I'm going to do this. I'm like, you have it all planned out. You can go on Google and look at it right now. Like, obviously being there will be cool for you, but to really experience stuff, it's like, you got to go find that one random guy sitting on the curb and talk to him for a little while. You got to go eat the food from that street vendor who's like been cooking up his whatever for 30 years on the side of the street. Like, I just think it's more fun to like dive into cultures and just different people. You know what I mean? That's how you interact more with strangers, and I think that's so important for humans to just talk to people that are different.
It's funny, I was just about to say, what country do you think taught you the most about humanity?
Peru. Yeah, because that was the first time I really saw, like, you know, like I'd been to a couple European countries. I've been to Canada. It's like white people eating steak and potatoes. You know what I mean? Like it's different, but they sound different when they talk. Yes. But like it's sort of the same. You know? Peru was the first place I went where like the second I got off the plane, people are like yelling at me in another language, and it was like, okay, I gotta like figure this out. Like this is now it's real. Like I can't even communicate with these people, so I gotta like find a way to communicate with these people.
Right.
And seeing like, you know, and even Peru's, they have poverty, but it's still probably not as bad as some places in India and Africa. Like Peru's pretty poor, but they're like happy for the most part. You know, like nobody has a lot, but like they all have
the things they need.
You know what I mean? Their families and food, and you know, it's all good. And then some cities like Lima is like New York, but everybody speaks Spanish. Like it's like not even that different. But then when you get into like the mountains and the jungle, it's like those people are like different. Yeah. Like it's totally not what you're used to. And I think that for me, being able to like try to communicate with people that again don't even speak the same language as me, like that helped me, you know, grow as a person and like figure out how to communicate. Like that's part of what makes us so special as humans, is we can communicate our thoughts to each other. Right. So then when you have that barrier of language where it's like, man, we have to like really connect with each other to try to understand what we're saying, you know, that helped me a lot, you know. Yeah. And people there are good, man. They're good people. That's some of the people were like, you're gonna get kidnapped. And you wouldn't believe the shit I heard. It was
Please, I hope you can debunk some of those theories about people when you go places, because like that's always a big thing when you go to like, if you go to a resort somewhere and then you get off the resort and people are like, you're gonna lose your life out there.
You're gonna get robbed. Not that crazy. It's really not. Like people are just trying to live, and like if you're gonna give them a few dollars for like the service they provide, you know, most of the food I bought while I was in the jungle was like from. Like people would just bring their grill out of their house and just cook on the street. Like I'd rather eat there than in the cafe. Because first of all, it's way cheaper. So you're kind of stupid to pay top dollar for the same shit in a cafe. Yeah. It's like, I'd rather go to this little auntie who's like cooking up her thing. And like, this is her thing. She makes it. It's like, I'm going to go to her, spend like 30 cents, make her, I'll buy 6 of them. And she's like, oh my goodness. Like, she's like, wow, you're an angel. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just hungry, you know? Like,
just trying to eat.
I'm just trying to eat. Maybe get one for my brother. Like, it's all good. Like, yeah, so being there was eye-opening for sure. That was the furthest away from my normal, I guess, whatever you would call it, like stuff that I'd seen.
Major comforts, major outside of your comfort zone.
Big time. Yeah, and it started immediately. The second we landed, I'm telling you, we like walked out. And you know how people are. They're like, get in my cab.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I don't even know where I'm going. Like, I probably should have researched this a little bit. I was like, I don't even know where I'm going. I don't even know what to tell you if I could talk to you.
You're right.
And they're all just like, get in. It's like, I was like, are they right? Am I going to get kidnapped? Like, this is like intense. Like, it was scary. But, you know, once you find your footing a little bit, we were able to, you know, thank God for the internet. I was like, hostile in Spanish. Hostile, you know? So you just figure it out. And that's the part where most people don't, they're never forced into those kinds of situations.
Right.
A lot of people are like, I'm going to the resort in Mexico where everybody speaks English. The dude's holding my name as soon as I get off the plane. I know I'm supposed to go with him. He already knows where to bring me.
Yeah.
Like, all that stuff is great. You know, I'm sure you'll have a good time hanging by the pool. But it's like, I wanted to just dive in it totally.
Yeah.
The jungle's the word. I'm a jungle boy. I've learned. That's where I want to be.
That's where you thrive.
Oh, I thrive. Dude. I don't wear shoes. I'm
You're really grounding.
In the river. Dude, it's like, that was my life. I just eat fruit. There's nobody had electricity in the jungle. No. It's like, you can't like keep a steak in the fridge. There is no fridge. You know, it's like you're eating fruit and mostly, you know. That was where I felt really good. Like, that was the only time when I was in the jungle, it was the only time where I ever like concluded a trip sort of against my will. Like, most of the time, the trips, it could be for a couple weeks, a couple months, but there would come a time where you go, I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
Like, now I want to be like, that's the other thing. People that want to travel, they think, I'm never coming back. It's like, you're going to miss your friends and your mom. And like, there will be a day where you wake up and you go, damn, I'm kind of far from home.
Yeah.
And like, I want to like see something familiar. And, you know, so there would be times on trips where I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm ready. Like, I'll go home for Christmas and work a couple months and save up some money and go do it again. But when I was in the jungle, I straight up ran out of money. All my friends were leaving. Like, I was with my brother, he left, went back home. I was with my friends Mikey and Kara. They were like on their way to Argentina, and I like wasn't going with them. So I was like, damn, like, I'm out of money. Like, if I'm ever gonna go home, like, I have to go now. It's the first time I like didn't want to go home. Yeah. But I felt like it was time, you know? Right. Which is tough.
As we wrap up here, we're just scratching the surface. We still got.
There's an episode 2. We're gonna have an episode.
You're gonna have like 5 episodes,
right,
most likely.
You know, I can talk.
I guess the last thing to take us out is goals for life, jiu-jitsu. Any goals you got on your mind?
Yeah, well, black belt, obviously. It's been it's been a goal for a really long time. You know, so I'm very, very happy that made it this far. So I'm not stopping now, right? That's a big one. Get more of that book done, you know, because it'll never be published if I don't finish it. So right. I got to finish that. That's a big thing. And, you know, just I'm still open to wherever life takes me, but I also want to have more. Like, I'm 34. I'll be 35 in the summer, right? And I do think it's time for me to start grounding and having more of a regular life, if you will.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm getting, you know, the chimney thing, like you said. This is the first job I've ever had where I could actually see a future in it. Yeah. Most of the time, it's just a paycheck. Just pay me, and then I'll be out, you know? This is the first time I'm like, I actually don't hate doing this. It's kind of fun. Like, after you build a chimney, you're like, build that shit. Like, that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel good being productive doing stuff like that. And, you know, lifting heavy shit, it's kind of manly work. I don't mind it. Yeah. And it pays the bills. I'm with a great girl now. You know, she's got kids.
Awesome.
That sort of forces me to slow down a bit. You know what I mean? It's a little more serious when you bring children into the mix. Yeah. And I'm at the age where I think I want to have kids of my own. You know what I mean? So I'm at the point where I'm not trying to have them just yet, but at least get my life to a place where I feel good about bringing other people into the world. you know, have some money saved up. That's something that I never thought I would care about.
Right.
I was always like, fuck money. Like, I didn't even want it. I was like, I'd rather just sleep under the bridge. I'll find a way to eat.
Right.
Now I'm like, man, a couple stacks in the bank would not be the worst thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If I want to have nice stuff, I got to have money. Like, that's just a reality.
Yeah.
My whole relationship with money, that's really what it is. Change my relationship with money, because I shunned it off for so long. And now I think it's like, actually, this can work with me to get me to do things I want to do still.
Right.
I definitely want to keep traveling. I'm not like done traveling, but it's just going to be different from here on out. You know what I mean? And not in a bad way, just different. And there's still a million places I want to go. You know, book, make some fucking money, get that black belt. You know, I'm at that age too where health is ever more important. Like, you know, especially when you start talking about having kids, it's like you got to be there to see them grow up. You don't want to
and
not be
coexisting
healthy.
with a woman too, and like how do you grow and your genetics and heredity going forward? Like, it all kind of plays a huge
health
role.
is important, man. Body is back to the spiritual thing. It's like your body is your temple. Like, this is where you reside. So to not take care of it is silly, right? It's like you got to take care of yourself. Just live a good life, man. I want to have a Harley Davidson.
That's been in the works.
That's been on my mind too for a while. Since I was 17, I sold my last bike maybe 2 years ago. These past 2 years, the first time I haven't had a motorcycle since I was 17. So it's like, it's kind of weird for me to like not have that. But so that's in the mix. You know, materials, whatever. But you know, just stay living. That's it. Just keep living. Live a good life. Hopefully, be good to people. Experience good things. Like, you know, I'm big on you get what you give, and I just want to be good to people. You know.
It's awesome.
RJ, it's been an honor. Thank you for joining.
We got to have a part 2, part 3.
There's a lot of parts coming in the future.
I think the next one will be at Stray Dogs.
Yeah,
I like it. I want to experience it. I need a grappling session. I'm
trying to get him in jiu-jitsu.
That's my 202024 thing. I want to get into jiu-jitsu, grappling, the whole deal.
What's another big guy in the gym?
Yeah, we have plenty of them.
Golly. But that's been episode 23. Hope you guys enjoy.
Like, view, subscribe on all platforms.
Peace.